This is your man John Fortune, the host of the Frustrated Fan Sports Show. And this show is going to focus on the free agency for the Washington Redskins and also the salary cap that goes on with us. But first thing I want to say is, can I start off by saying I absolutely hate the Seattle Seahawks and the Chicago Bears. I mean, can nobody beat the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles? I mean, damn, we did help them. And now other teams want to help them as well. I mean, Jesus Christ. I can't understand why another team can't beat them. I mean, yeah, we should have beat them, but still, Jesus. I can't even bet against the damn teams because every time I turn around, they somehow find a way to eke out wins. If it's not the refs helping them in Dallas, or if it's not the stupid kicker in Chicago, I don't know what the hell is going on. But anyway, I want to focus on this show right now. I'm going to focus more on what we should do in free agency, and at the same time focus on what our salary cap situation is right now. Like currently, so just so everybody know, this year for 2019, the cap is going to be $189 million, which is fairly high for a year where we got a cap. But the crazy thing about that is that currently at this point, we have $179 million already spent. And the thing about it is that the only money that we have to basically spend is a little under $15 million. That's all we have. We have a little under $15 million. Then we have a little less than $2 million in dead space, dead cap money. And guess what that money is? Us releasing DJ Swearinger. A little under $2 million. And the only thing that we basically got on there is DJ Swearinger as dead cap money. I mean, it's the craziest thing that I've ever seen. But again, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start focusing in on first thing I'm going to focus on is what we should do in regards to cap casualties. So I'm going to just run this off. Now, at this current point, I got 5 guys on my list to be cap casualties because right now they cost us $40 million. $40 million, that's a lot of money for these guys to be costing us. But not only that, these guys have been perennial problems for us since they've been here, and there's no need for us to keep these guys around. And the longer we keep them around, the worse this team is going to be. And at this point, we really need to start adjusting the attitude, the environment, and everything of this team, and at the same time get younger while we're actually going about it as well. So this year I focused on a couple areas that I felt like guard, wide receiver, tight end, and safety were things that I focused on in the free agency. So I'm going to get right into it. All right, so my first guy that I feel should be a cap casualty, I think all of us feel the same way, is Josh Norman. This guy this year is going to cost us $14.5 million against the cap. Now, if we release him, it'll only be a cap hit of $6 million, which is actually pretty good, compared to a cap hit of $14.5 million. So he's a guy that has to go because, again, he really hasn't played up to the standard of the money we paid him. He just seems like, to me, he hasn't really been interested in playing here since he's gotten here. I mean, maybe his first year, he really came out and seemed like he really wanted to play. But after that, he really didn't seem like he was really that interested in being a Washington Redskin, to be quite honest with you. So he's my number one guy that's going on with that. With that being said, if we release him, then we would have a savings of $8.5 million. So that's actually pretty good on our end when it comes to releasing the guy that we have to release. The next guy on my list is Zac Brown. I know that we just signed him to a long contract and everything like that, but man, did we get this one wrong. I mean, Buffalo must have known that this guy was on his last legs, because this guy did almost absolutely nothing for us. And then not only that, he lost his starting spot to the rookie Sean Dion Hamilton, which is the little young linebacker from Alabama. So, you know, he would cost us $8.75 million against the cap. But if we release him, it would only be $3 million against the cap. So that's actually a $5.75 million savings for us. So that's my other cap casualty. I'm pretty sure that a lot of people would agree with that. I also got on here Mason Foster. Mason Foster, again, he's older. You could tell he's slowing. Both these linebackers are not good sideline to sideline. They're not fast. So it's probably best that we get rid of both of them. You know, this year Mason Foster would cost us $2.25 million against the cap. If we release him, he'll only cost us $250,000, which means we'll have a $2 million savings on that cap casualty. My next guy is Stacy McGee. We got him from the Cowboys some years ago, maybe about 2 years ago. And this guy, to me, hasn't done anything for us since we brought him in. And, I mean, this guy's going to cost us $4.8 million against the cap. And this is one of these guys that I have to also say, you know, we release him, he'll only be $2.4 million against the cap, which will save us $2.4 million. So that'll be good. My last guy is a guy that I know a lot of fans probably, they love his potential. They love what they think he could be. But we've had, to me, I feel that we've had enough time with him here. And that's Jordan Reed. Jordan Reed, he's a guy that he can't stay healthy. He seems like we seem like we paid him all this money, and no matter what we do, we just can't keep this guy on the field to save our lives. I mean, this guy was supposed to be, I mean, yeah, he was our leading receiver this year, but again, we can't have him constantly injured all the time. And at this point, this guy cost us $9.72 million against the cap. You know, so if we release him, he'll only cost us $3.6 million, which means we'll have a savings of $6.121 million on our books. So altogether, you know, just to say this, these guys, if we had kept them on our roster, they would have cost us $40 million a year. They would have cost us $40 million this year. With us releasing them, we actually gained $24 million, which means that if we add the $24 million to our basically $14 million, that gives us a good $38 million to spend on free agency this year. And to me, I think that that's actually pretty good when you think about that's only 5 guys we're releasing. You know, we've actually got a bunch of young guys on our team, you know, a lot of guys that are going to get a second opportunity to become something, do something this year. And this is actually good for us. So I think if they focus on releasing these 5 guys, we'll actually have a big, big chance of doing something in free agency that will be worthwhile. And like I said, you know, these guys, I understand that, you know, for some people, Jordan Reed hits a heart. You know, Jordan Reed is a guy that, you know, we just love his potential. We love what he could be. But this guy's been with us for a while. And he's gone to the Pro Bowl, yes. But he hasn't done anything beyond the maybe 2 real successful years that he had with us. Maybe a year and a half before we paid him the money, and since then he hasn't been much of nothing after that. And to me, it's just time for us to move on. So with that being said, you know, last year we had a rookie cap. We spent about $10 million on our rookies. So altogether, I say we'll have like a nice little estimate of about $38 million to spend if we have these cap casualties that we really need to have. With that being said, last year we spent about $10 million on rookies last year, but we also selected about maybe, I think it was like 9 guys We had about 9 guys that we paid. This year, we only got like 5 draft picks this year. So we may not have to spend $10 million this year on rookies, but I'm going to put that $10 million to the side and say we're going to have about $28 million when it comes to spending in free agency. And with that being said, here is my list of guys and also backup guys that we could probably sign if we sit up here and we do what we're supposed to do in releasing the guys that we need to release. Like I said, this year I focused on positions that I felt that, we really needed help in, and that a veteran presence would probably be a little bit better for us than us going out there and getting a rookie. So I'm going to start this list off with my number 1 guy at guard is A.J. Kahn from the Jacksonville Jaguars. I know a lot of y'all are saying, damn, John, Jacksonville, they were bad this year. They were bad, yes, but I think that's because the team gave up because of the fact that they knew they had awful quarterback play. But when it comes to this offensive line, this has got to be one of the best offensive lines I've seen. And they actually have 2 guys up for free agency, but this particular guy I really like. A.J. McCann, this guy, he's 27 years old. He only had 2 penalties all year. He basically played 15 games, so basically played the whole season, which means he's very durable when it comes to, not getting injured as much. And at the same time, this is a guy that, I think he will be costing us some money. So I'm looking at it from a standpoint that if we do bring in this guy, we would have to pay him around about like 4 years, $20 million. That'll put us at that $5 million a year thing, which to me isn't really bad compared to, we signed Sean Laval to, I think it was like 5 years, $25 million. So, this guy, he's coming off a really good year. He's not quite a Pro Bowler, which is why we could probably get him at a lower number than what the going rate is for offensive guards this year. And nobody's paying attention to him because Jacksonville was so bad. So I think this will be a guy that we can look at. As a backup plan to that, I think the guy Jeff Allen, the guard from Kansas City. Again, this is another guy who he played about 10 games this year. I think he started about 6 or 7. He also only had 2 penalties all year. Both of them were false starts, which was our big problem last year. But this guy is actually something that I really like because, again, he plays in that Andy Reid system. A lot of the Andy Reid guys, if they're not old, tend to be fairly good players going into other people's systems. So I do like this guy as a backup if we can't get A.J. Kahn at the $20 million that I think we should get him at. Another option is Ari Kwanjo, our own guy. I know that at the beginning of the season, I think he was supposed to be our left guard starter, and he ended up getting injured. Him, I think we could probably, he's only 27. We could probably get him at 2 years, $6 million, which would only average about $3 million a year. This guy, again, because he's somebody that knows our system already, could be still be good. But, we need to sign him at 2 years just so it could be like prove it to us type years, so we can make sure he doesn't, because he has had a lot of injuries during his time with us. So this is a guy that I really feel that we should probably go ahead and try our best to sign him back if need be, if we can't get the 2 previous guys that I've already listed. Next, I got wide receivers. Now, I know that a lot of us think that, we got pretty good young wide receivers, and the guy that Calvin Sims, I think is his name, from Alabama, and Maurice Harris, who I felt was pretty good. But Josh Doxson is not good for us. Paul Richardson is probably decent, but we need some other guys in here. So here's my list of guys that I feel should be number 1. Now, at the high end, I really like this guy. I think he's a good guy, and I'm actually going to give you his numbers. He had 44 receptions, 549 yards, 4 touchdowns, and he had a 12.5-yard average. And the guy's only 25 years old. The guy's Devin Funchess. Devin Funchess has been phenomenal for the Carolina Panthers. Now, I know that they did change their offense and everything, so he wasn't targeted as much as he was the year before when he had like 8 touchdowns that year, but this guy's still a major threat. Now, with him, we would have to bring him in at like 4 years, $28 million because the guy's going to, I mean, we paid Paul Richardson, and he's making him about 7.5 this year. So we're gonna have to get this guy like $7 million a year. So that's what I'm thinking when it comes to this. My backup plans for this guy is one is Martavius Bryant. This guy, he needs a comeback thing because he was so great in Pittsburgh, and he went to. It seems like this is like the course of any pretty good receiver that ever goes to Oakland. They're good somewhere else, then they go to Oakland and they're not that good, and then it's not until they're traded or signed somewhere else that these guys find their strides again. And this is a great example of that. I think with Martavius Bryant, last year he had 19 receptions, 266 yards, and he had an 11.4 yard average. He had 1 touchdown. But again, the team wasn't that good. Derek Carr didn't play that well, as a young quarterback. He really, really didn't play well at all. So I think that there's a chance that we can actually get this guy. Again, this is a guy that we could probably get at 2 years, $8 million, and which will average out about like $4 million for a year. And it'll be good for us because for him, it would be like a prove it season. Like he would have to prove that, yeah, I could still play in the NFL, pretty much like what Amari Cooper did down in Dallas. Showed that, look, yeah, I'm still a number 1 guy. So I don't even understand why people initially didn't want to give me a first round pick. So that's one guy. The other guy that I have to honestly admit, if we can get Devin Funchess and this guy, being as though they played together before. And again, this guy has something to prove as well, and that's Kelvin Benjamin. This guy, he had 25 receptions, 380 yards. He had a 15.2 yard average, and he had 1 touchdown. I also want to include that he had a lot of this in Buffalo, where he had probably the worst quarterback play ever. I mean, he had Nathan Peterman throwing to him, Josh Allen throwing to him, and it was another quarterback that was throwing to him, but it wasn't that good. So this guy is one of these guys that I have to honestly admit could be looking for a rebound season as well. So and I think we can also get him. We could probably get him for cheaper. We can probably get him for 2 years and $6 million, which would be $3 million a year. So, and again, these guys, Devin Funchess, Martavius Bryant, only 25 years old. And Kelvin Benjamin is only 27. So these are guys that, again, even though they're young, we still got a chance of really, really doing something with these guys. Next on my list are tight ends. Again, Jordan Reed. I think Jeremy Sprinkle is good. I think we won't really see how good he is because I think he's like Fred Davis in a way. We won't really see how good he is until like 3 years later. So, with that being said, these guys right here, I really, really like. And I think that we can actually get these guys for cheap as well, but we'll have them in our system for a very long time. The number 1 guy is Jesse James from the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's only 25. And we know Pittsburgh's history of not really signing their guys when it comes to free agency. They don't really like to sign their guys, and they don't like to sign their guys to long contracts. But this guy's 25 years old, and I'm looking at his numbers. He had 30 catches, 428 yards. He had a 14.2 yard average and 2 touchdowns. We can get this guy at 4 years and $12 million a year. He wasn't making a lot of money, so you're talking about that's a good about $3 million a year. So I like this guy. I really like this guy. My next guy on my list is C.J. Uzomah. He's the tight end from the Cincinnati Bengals. And this guy is probably one of the most underrated tight ends that's sitting out there right now. And he's only 26. This guy last year, he had 43 receptions, 439 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he had a 10.2 yard average. This guy is a beast. And he's another one that I think we can probably get at 4 years, $12 million, which will average out about, again, $3 million a year. So this is something that I really think we could probably do. Last on my list is this guy, Ricky Seals-Jones. Now, a lot of y'all probably didn't see this guy, probably didn't see a lot of Arizona Cardinals games, but this is another guy. This guy's only 24 years old. He's 24 years old. And his numbers, he had 34 catches, 343 yards. He had a 10.1 yard average, and he had 1 touchdown. This guy is a sneaky threat. If he had better quarterback play, I'm telling you, this guy's probably a breakout star. And I just like this guy. But this is a guy at 24 years old. We can get this guy at 4 years and $10 million, which would be $2.5 million a year. So these are guys that I really, really feel that tight end wise, we could probably have stellar years with these guys. And I'm like really pumped about this. Last on my list when it comes to free agency is safety. And I really wanted to focus on this because with us stupidly releasing DJ Swearinger and not really having a replacement with him, Clinton Dix is going to just cost us way too much. And we at this point we just have to look for the future. So here's some guys that I hope and pray that we could probably get. We can probably get about 2 of them. But here's some guys that I like. The first guy I like is Brian Poole from Atlanta, 26 years old, and this guy is just a stat machine. This guy last year, last year, whatever, he had 75 tackles, 3 sacks, 3 picks, and 5 quarterback hits. This guy is amazing. And he's a guy that can actually play both safety positions. So this is a guy that we can actually plug and play and will probably outplay anybody we had on when it came to our secondary, when it came to the safeties. I mean, this guy is just a phenomenal player. My next guy on my list is Clayton Geathers from Indianapolis. Again, this is another guy, young, 27 years old. This guy's a tackling machine. I mean, could you imagine having Brian Poole and Clayton Geathers together in our secondary? I mean, let me just give you Clayton Geathers' numbers. This guy had 89 tackles. He had 2 quarterback sacks. He had 2 quarterback pressures, and he had 1 forced fumble. We can get this guy at 4 years and $16 million. We can get both guys at 4 years, $16 million, which will average out about $4 million a year. So these are guys that I really, really like. My backup plans to them is first, Andrew Adams from Tampa Bay. This guy's 26 years old. He's another one. He had 38 tackles. He had 2 quarterback hits. He had 4 picks last year. I mean, that's pretty good stats for a guy who, he's a free safety. But I mean, that's something that we really need to look at when it comes to that. Now we can get this guy much cheaper because this guy will only be 12. We can get him at 4 years and $12 million, which will average out to about $3 million a year. So this is a guy that I really, really think that we should take a deeper look at. The other guy, I happened to see him in the Chicago playoff game, but I have been following him all year as well, and that's Adrian Amos. Again, this is another young guy, 26 years old, and unrestricted free agent. Another tackling machine. This guy has 73 tackles, 1 sack, 1 quarterback pressure, and 2 picks. This guy, again, we're talking about guys that could be absolutely stellar for us. And these are guys that I honestly feel, and again, we could probably get him at 4 years, $12 million, which would be $3 million a year. So with that being said, I think we should probably stick to this when it comes to our free agency. I do feel that we should pick up a quarterback, but instead of signing one, because when we sit up here and I averaged everything out, so say we get all the high-end guys, so that means AJ Cann, Devin Funchess, Jesse James, Clayton Geathers, and Brian Poole. that will only cost us $23 million, and we would still have about $5 million left to spend. So that's actually pretty good for us. But instead of spending that $5 million on a quarterback, trying to sign one, because a quarterback like Teddy Bridgewater, he's going to get the most money. He's definitely going to get the most money. I think Jacksonville will more than likely target him to try their best to get as much money as they can put together to really get this guy to come in. I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants may try to go after him. Again, he probably wouldn't cost him much. He wouldn't cost Eli Manning money. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to go after him. Maybe Cincinnati, if they really given up on Andy Dalton. We'll definitely see. But the guy I think that we should actually think about trying to grab is Jacoby Brissett. Again, this guy he has one more year on his deal. He comes really, really cheap. Less than $1 million against our cap. This would be something where we can actually see if we have a guy who can be our long-term solution when it comes to quarterback if Alex Smith cannot come back. I wish Alex Smith doesn't come back. I would love to have Jacoby Brissett. But again, this is a guy that we can probably re-sign for fairly cheap as well. So with that being said, that was my listing of what we should do in free agency, who should be our cap casualties. Comment, like, subscribe, do all that stuff. My next show will be about what we should do in the draft. So this is your man John Fortune for the Frustrated Fan Sports Show.